Oh, GYNs of Reddit, what's the most mind-blowing thing a husband or boyfriend has said?
Back in my OB rotation in med school, we had a pregnant woman who was super morbidly obese with a BMI in the 70s. During her first prenatal visit, the resident was asking about her pregnancy history, past difficulty with fertility and conception, problems with the pregnancy so far, etc. Pretty standard stuff as far as I understood at the time. Husband then chimed in about the conception. Turns out they had no trouble conceiving. He then went into detail about how the conception went and blew my little inexperienced mind. Basically, the wife's mother and sister had to help with conception by holding the wife's thighs out of the way enough that he could get in to do the job. I still don't have words.
Black children are pretty light-skinned when they are born. A maternity nurse told me that some fathers immediately suspect that the mom has been unfaithful when they see a child with a far lighter complexion.
Dad is a 30-plus-year-old Jinn, now retired. He tells a story of a hyper-religious couple, Muslim, who came in about difficulty getting pregnant. He examined the woman alone and discovered that she was actually a hermaphrodite, intersex. Male gonads, undistended. No uterus, normal vulva, vagina. The woman was mortified to learn this at 18. She feared her husband would be violent, believing he had been being gay by having sex with her. My dad gave her the option to call the police, or ask for help. He and the nurses gave her phone numbers for counseling, and offered discretion when talking to the spouse. She declined everything and asked that they tell the husband together. The man was super upset, and they eventually left the office both in tears. Dad never saw her again, and wonders what happened.
I'm not an OB/GYN. However, I am a flight medic who has delivered 3 babies. I'll never forget any of them. The second baby I delivered was about 5 weeks early, roadside, in East Jesus nowhere. The family had gone camping in the desert and Mom went into labor. By the time we arrived, there was no turning back and baby's head was visible. Mom was sort of squatting with her forearms on the middle row of seats in a van and her booty was aimed out the door. She was clothed in a loose dress. Just as she was pushing the head out, Dad said, "Wait, we might get blood on the floor." Mom rounded on him with the biggest death glare and said, "F% hash your mom's van." That became a unit motto.
Edit. *trigger warning *, racists, incels, and other internet man-baby snowflakes will apparently find this story infuriating. Just a hot tip for all the young lonely boys using the term cook unironically in current year is a great way to advertise to the world that you've never known the romantic touch of a human woman. Not my story, but an OB I work with once delivered a baby for a couple who were tall, pale, Scandinavian stereotypes. He met them about halfway through the pregnancy. They were this funny loving couple that seemed super into each other. Baby starts to crown dense, thick black hair. Baby comes out very obviously mixed race. OB puts baby up on mom's chest, bracing for the meltdown. Mum starts to cry happy tears. Dad starts to cry happy tears, shaking as he carefully strokes his baby's wet bloody afro. Nobody is reacting at all. OB's mind is melting. Do they not notice? Turns out that loving partner wasn't baby daddy. Met mom when she was in early pregnancy, totally aware that the baby wasn't his, totally aware of the race of the dad. Neglected to mention any of this to the OB. Many chortles were had later when everything was cleared up.
My dad is a doctor and his friend was a OB/GYN and was telling my dad a time when a couple came into his office and they were having difficulty having a child. They were trying for over a year to have a child but the wife never got pregnant. Found out that the man and the woman came up in very strict upbringing and the man was never putting his penis inside her. He was basically rubbing his penis on top of her vagina and would ejaculate across her belly. Then he would take his finger and smear his semen all over the top of her vagina. My dad's friend had to explain sex to the both of them and tell them what to do and how to do it. Was an awkward conversation. I just kept thinking, did they not ever watch porn or have that talk with their parents? Have they never seen stuff related to sex ever? Was just a crazy story. I wonder if they ever figured it out and actually eventually had kids or not.
Seeing mom back in the office for her 2-week follow-up after delivery to remove stitches, She had a tear that needed repair, only to find out the stitches were gone. Turns out hubby took 'em out because they were bothering him during sex.
Not an MD, but when I was a paramedic, I was called to a home for a 14-year-old girl who I found standing over the toilet, and I noticed there was what looked like an umbilical cord going into the toilet. Upon further examination, I discovered there was a newborn baby in the toilet. The child stated this newborn could not possibly be her baby as she was a virgin.
My ex-boyfriend is an OB/GYN. He got annoyed with me when I was having cramps and said because he was an OB/GYN he knew exactly what that pain felt like and told me to get over it. Should have seen that as the first of many red flags.
Not quite what you are asking for, but when my wife was pregnant, she fell down the stairs because our other child decided she wanted to jump out of mom's arms. Cue all the bruising and preterm labor. After that, appointments got really awkward. Nurses were short with me. I finally told my wife that I had a feeling the staff didn't like me, and I figured I'd sit the next appointment out unless she really wanted me there. My wife said she noticed all of this and decided to ask a nurse what the deal was. Turns out the whole office just assumed I'm the one who pushed her down the stairs. I wasn't even home when it happened. That's when I found out that I apparently look like the type of guy who would push a pregnant woman down the stairs.
Not a doctor, but pregnant. I told my BF we should make and freeze 1 to 2 months of meals before the birth, because we'd be too tired to cook. He looked at me knowingly and said, "Ah, yes, like pureed fruits and vegetables so we don't have to mash them ourselves." He literally thought you feed the baby food from day one. We're in our 30s, college educated, he has a huge, close extended family with lots of babies, and he knows I'm going to breastfeed. I guess he thought you do both from day one?
Not a medic, but I have been told by one midwife that a guy asked her to hurry up with the birth as the footy was starting soon and it's a cup match.
Obligatory, not an OB/GYN, but a operating room nurse. One gynecologist told us once about their gynecologist in training. We all knew him. He was a young, friendly and good guy to work with. He was already married, father of 2 kids at the age of 25. This guy had only one negative aspect. And it was affecting his work dearly. He was extremely religious. This doesn't have to be negative. But his decision-making was based on his religion, and he often refused to offer contraceptives to his female patients, and he was reserved talking and explaining contraception methods with couples. It was against his religion. Eventually word got around with his superiors, and they had to sit him down, explaining him it's against the law to withhold any form of help and information.
Work in IM, but a patient's partner not wanting us to reveal an HIV diagnosis to a patient was definitely a low point for me. Though where I work it's probably a stretch to even call that surprising. Back in my days, a young teenage patient came in with pregnancy-type symptoms. Of course pregnancy test was positive, and appeared utterly shocked she was pregnant. I asked her if she was sexually active. Yes. Do you use condoms? Still she seemed surprised this had happened.
Not an OB/GYN, but my OB/GYN had the sex talk with me instead of my parents. They withdrew me from sex classes and made me show up to a counselor instead, promising they would teach sex on their own time. Anyway, the OB/GYN said that anal sex is legitimate but that you can't get pregnant from it. She had met at least 8 couples in her lifetime. Age was late 40s, early 50s, where the couple was having fertility issues, and it was because the husband was using the wrong hole. I repeat, the husband was using the wrong hole. It was even more mortifying because these were very traditional couples, Asian, Indian, Christian, and they were horrified they were committing sodomy. So yeah. The conversations that woman must have had.
This thread isn't as funny as I was hoping it would be. It's quite depressing, actually.
I once had a guy ask me if his girlfriend has been sticking tuna down there.
Can you make that tighter?
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.